All right, by my watch, it's straight up 6 o'clock, so call to order for the roll call.
Aaron McCarty, Charles Morris, Michael Lucas,
Present.
James Grogan,
Here.
Kevin McCabe.
Here.
Mr. McKay, would you lead us in the pledge, please, sir?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all have the agenda in front of you, looking for a motion.
Move that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Need a second.
Excuse me?
Need a second for the...
Second.
All right, any opposed? None opposed, we'll approve the agenda. On to the minutes from last meeting, approval of minutes, looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting. And that was October 19th of 2023.
Looking for a second? That was July.
I'm sorry, that's today. I'm sorry, that was July 20th of 2023.
That's better.
There we
All
go.
right, any objections? No objections. Approval has been done. Staff reports, sir.
I don't really have any staff reports. The new and unfinished business will cover everything, so.
Okay.
I was just going to thank the Advisory Commission for the continued support for the airport. We had a great groundbreaking that happened in September and got the attention of a lot of people in the community, and as well as the delegation knows we're committed. And we did some additional outreach to some potential customers, and it was very well received, so thank you once again for your continued support.
Thank you. Open now for public comments. Seeing no public, unfinished business, the airport rate study, which is on hold. HDL.
Hello.
Here. You guys are up.
Okay. We just wanted to make ourselves available, I guess.
I could have you come up and sign in, yes, please.
Yeah,
State your name for the record.
Sure thing. Do I need to hit a button on this thing?
Should be red, you're on.
Okay. Hello. You guys got me? My name is Mark Swenson. I'm the general manager of HDL Engineering Consultants. I'm also the head of our aviation design section. And I'm really here to share where we are in the master planning process and also answer any questions you might have about it. We didn't prepare a presentation, but we wanted to make ourselves available in case you had any questions. So that's my main goal here today. With me is Heather Campfield. She's our environmental lead in this with aviation planning. So the good news is we just got our aviation forecast approved through the FAA. We submitted it a couple months ago, and it took them a while to chew on it. It was no surprises, and the aviation forecast was gathered and using data from interviews with existing users, prospective users, and also the FAA's databases, which are gathered off of flight plans and air carrier information that's required to be submitted, and air taxi information that's is requested but not required to be submitted. So we gathered all that data. I think you guys, the commission was in the interview process from one of our employees, Adam Bruscher, and there really wasn't any surprises with the forecast. It verified that the current aircraft that use the Wasilla Airport are mostly small aircraft, general aviation, A1 aircraft classification. The ultimate aircraft was a B2. which is, let me think of it. I think Caravan is a good example of a B-2 aircraft. Now where we are is we're trying to wrap up the conditions and needs assessment, and the last thing we do is we compare the facilities that are currently out at the airport versus the needs of the critical aircraft, both existing and ultimate. And then when that's done, we will have a condition and needs assessment, which is basically the first half of the master plan. The second half of the master plan process is to understand alternatives of future development, where we want to go. This first half is basically focused on who uses the airport now and who's projected to use the airport and what the condition of the current facilities are. The next is kind of the exciting part, which is how you take that information and you build alternatives for future development. And there will be lots of room for future input from the public and the city and the commissioners on that phase. So that's it, kind of where we are in a nutshell, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
So I'm on. So curious if we have in your master plan, and this is one of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. Interested to know if you've done any thought or investigation on future fire department firefighting if we decide to go, say, Part 139, which is 9 passengers but less than 31, as far as firefighting for scheduled passengers. Have you done is there anything in your plan that deals with that?
There will be. Right now, we're kind of at the existing conditions, and so we're kind of analyzing what we have right now, and we're about to go into where we're going. And I think the ARF response and all of that will be, especially with input from the city about how they see that coming, will be important. I think there's definitely will be a discussion if the airport becomes Part 139 airport, we need to have ARF capabilities. Okay. So that'll be part of the next spot. But that's a good question.
Thanks.
Any questions?
Any more runway closures?
I think we're out of the woods for this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for everybody's patience with that. I haven't been out there in the last couple of days, but I hear the striping's done and looks good.
A couple clarifications. You said, I misunderstood, the needs assessment versus the current or future needs. Is that what you guys are analyzing right now under the first part of this?
Yeah, basically the master plan is done in 2 phases. First phase is called conditions and needs assessment, and that's what we're under contract right now, and where we're trying to get that wrapped up in the next few months or so. And what that is existing conditions, who uses the airport, who's projected to use it, and then how the existing facilities meet those needs. And then the next part is looking at alternatives for airport expansion, and we haven't started that yet, but we will.
Okay, so the second half is still needed to be funded by the city, is that correct?
It's planned, it needs to be contracted. I think the funding might be in place, but we are not under contract for it yet. It's just a matter of contractual, we need to give them a proposal.
And then what was the other one? The old master plan, how does that fit in with you guys? Do you guys look at the old one and then come back and say, well, let's adjust this, or do you guys just kind of put that aside and start fresh and new?
We looked at it. It was a good reference document. A lot's changed, I will say, in a lot of there's a lot, especially on the city side, a lot more bigger plans, I guess I would say. We looked at the forecast. The forecast, I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus here, but their forecast had a couple of math errors we found in it. But when you correct those math errors, the forecasts were pretty similar about who uses the airport and what the current use is. We're not going to throw away any good ideas that were in that airport. We'll build in that master plan. We'll shake them out with and carry them forward into all our alternatives. We'll show those. I don't know if the public will be receptive to those, or if there's other ones now that there's kind of more of an economic driver component of this airport than there ever has been analyzed in the past.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And I'll leave my card. I know you might have HDL's contact information already, but if you want to talk to me, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I'd love to contact.
I'm the one that was going to be the primary author of this master plan.
Is it fair to ask, and I'm looking at the city too, is it fair to ask what that second contract's going to cost? Or have we set a price for that for the city committee, or not yet?
I would be speaking, I'd be grabbing a number off the top of my head, so I don't really want to do that yet, but I owe the city a proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, is where that comes down.
Mr. Chair, can I make one comment too?
Please.
So on page 19 of your packet is kind of the outline that Heather and I talked about for tonight's meeting, and so Mark covered most of that. One thing I want to draw your attention to is we're planning another public meeting on December 6th, and it's probably going to be at the Nygard Center, like the first one was. And but there'll be reminders coming out, but we'd like to see the board there, and we'd like to see all of our users, and we just want to get the word out to have public come and make comments to further that process along.
And that will be a lot like this. Will be information sharing. We'll be able to share the results of the forecast and the facility standards report, hopefully. But I don't expect there will be a lot of because we won't have alternatives and stuff like that yet. That we aren't going to be there. So it'll be more of a here we are and here where we're going kind of thing.
And who runs that meeting?
HDL will.
Okay.
I'll probably run it.
Awesome.
And when will, say the date again?
December 6th.
What time?
I believe from 6 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
How'd that go last time? Just out of.
It was good. It was. I think it was well attended. I think. It wasn't like a flood of folks, but there was a steady trickle of people, and we had a couple tables set up with some graphics around them, and really what we were hoping to do is listen and learn about how people use the airport and what they wanted out of this process, and we got some good feedback. Some people that were had some stakes in future development and were there and were vocal, and that was nice. And occasional Cub user was there. People that had tied down hangers were there, so we got a good mix of folks that were represented. And that was great.
Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
On to new business, update on the apron E and striping.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So wanted to use this opportunity to give you an update on the ongoing construction projects out there. So the Apron E expansion project kicked off here a couple weeks ago, basically. So a background on that, it's going to extend so it's a phase 2 of the Apron E project. Apron E, of course, is our newest section to the north of the field. This construction project will be completed next summer. It will add 27 new tie downs. It'll add head bolt heaters and new lights. It'll look very much like the new section that we have. The bid came in well below the engineer's estimate. We had a very robust bid spread, so there were 9 bidders, which is unbelievable. And the lowest 3 bidders were within $100,000 of each other. That was really exciting. So we got a really good value with the bids that came in, and we're really excited about the low bidder Nicer Construction. They got started with the tree clearing. They made a ton of smoke, so we apologize about that. But they needed to get going, and so they did 24-hour burns, and that's pretty much over. What you're going to start to see soon is a haul operation where they're going to bring that hill down, and they're going to haul it to the end of the runway, end of it's 2-2, I think, or 4, I can't remember now. And they're going to use that as bulk fill for the ongoing plan to extend the runway. They plan to do as much work as they can before they get frozen out, so we're expecting them to proceed very quickly. But we're very satisfied with the process that they're under right now. HDL is also our contract administrator and inspector, so they have a team out there taking shifts and watching that work happen. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on apron E, and then I'll tell you about the striping project.
For apron E, do you know what the stress is for it, the load-bearing capabilities of that ramp?
So it is in line with the standard apron thickness, but we did increase the taxiway thickness. I think it's in the back. Let me see if I can decipher this. Yeah, so we added additional taxiway thickness to the tune of, looks like about, almost 39,000. I'm just trying to see if they showed how we changed that. You see the tie down detail, but I don't see the thickness. So it's, I guess it's another inch and a half of asphalt in the taxi lane. So 3.5 inches in the taxi lane and 2.25 in the tie downs.
Yes, I had a question, but it's for HDL in a way of, so if we'd got anything in the master plan of making that better load bearing for bigger aircraft? Because now we've already spent millions doing this.
Well, I think the master plan is going to look about, okay, where do we want to put our commercial aircraft activities? Where's where we want to, and we'll have discussions about separation of GA versus commercial aprons and stuff like that. So I think that's a very pertinent conversation for the master plan. I think right now what the FAA is going to fund is small aircraft parking. And to tell you the truth, it was a bit of a push to get that taxiway strengthened up a little bit. They kind of just didn't. It was interesting. I was expecting the FAA to say they weren't going to pay for it.
They're not paying for it.
You're paying for it.
Yeah, we
That's
kicked in
You're
extra money.
paying for the extra thickness.
One thing that went back and forth was the head bolt heaters.
Yeah.
They said, we're not gonna pay for it. And we said, okay, well, we'll move ahead with that. And then they came back before the bid went out and said, okay, we will pay for that.
Right.
So that was the back and forth. But yeah, we are paying for the extra thickness.
Right.
The other thing to keep in mind is that, the master plan we're operating off right now shows a segregated commercial zone. We have some bulk fill over on the other side of the field. We just don't have any other infrastructure over there. So we basically don't have FAA's blessing to plus up the GA side for anticipated heavier loads. And that's what Mark was saying is we can make the case that the taxiway is going to lead to hangars that probably have a bit more stress on them and stuff. But the existing master plan that we're operating under shows a brand new commercial facing development on the other side of the field. And this is still the GA side that we're working through the development of.
So I guess that's where the public meeting for the questions, answers, and stuff like for the future, where are we going to put for like anti-ice, environmental, run, all that kind of stuff. That'll be in phase 2?
Yep. During phase 2, we'll look at alternatives. There's the interesting, not to belabor the point here, but there's land out at that airport, which is great. A lot of the airports we work on, we don't have land. So it is kind of going to be interesting about how we want to use that land and where we want to focus on GA and where we want to focus on commercial, and is there some mixed use that in the middle there or something like that. But yeah, a lot of that next phase is and there'll be public outcry about all of it, about changing the current use, about creating too much commercial activity, too much commercial space, and about not creating enough. So, but that's kind of what that's a master plan process.
All right, thanks again.
So if it's all right with the chair, I'll talk about the striping. Okay, so we were able to leverage our nimbleness to get a grant with the FAA to get the striping in there. And so we weren't sure if the weather would allow us to do this, but the rain stopped for a little bit and the temperatures didn't drop too quickly. So last couple days we had a striping contractor out there, and so we had NOTAMs that closed the field so that we could get out there and do the threshold markings and the center line and all of that. They successfully completed yesterday. There was a bit of a snafu on the first day because when the NOTAM time started, we couldn't get operators to leave the field. So it delayed us by almost an hour because we had to basically chase them off. When they'd land and taxi out, we'd have to go out there and block it so they couldn't come back on. That was kind of frustrating. And so at the end of the NOTAM, about 7, we were trying to get the striping done. So there was some interaction with some planes that wanted to land at 7:01 and circle for a little bit. But we were able to up to the start time for the second day so that we had that cushion that we needed. And we were able to use the morning rising temperatures to get the paint down. So we got most of the paint done that we wanted. The runway's all done. We wanted to try to get a little bit more of the taxiway sidelines painted, and I think we will probably have a bit of a change order to reduce the linear footage of striping because we weren't able to get some of the extra stuff that we hoped for. We had actually run around and found more paint to make sure that we could maximize our every minute of painting because they have a really expensive paint truck. So anyway, very successful. A few hiccups because of the delay in the first day, but other than that, pretty happy with the amount of work that we got done in 2 days of impacts to the runway.
And that delay was for aircraft ignoring the NOTAMs that didn't know about the NOTAMs.
Correct. And they weren't responding to the radio, which was also pretty frustrating.
Some don't have radios, so.
Possible. So we had to kind of herd them out.
That's funny. All right, how about snow removal?
All right, yeah, let's jump to snow removal. Okay, so I wanted to give you an update on the snow removal plan and then kind of just see what the committee thinks about effective communication for this. But what I'll do is I'll walk you through the way our staff prioritize snow removal so that operators understand and kind of can plan for and maybe come up with a collective solution on some points that cause problems sometimes. Okay, so of course, number one priority is always the runway. So our staff hit the runway first, and they have a process of clearing the runway, and then they immediately move to the taxiways and the access along those taxiways. So that's the first thing that they'll do. So let's talk about timing first. So this is how it's explained to me by my road supervisor who also oversees the runway, or the snow removal. So snow removal starts with priorities 1 through 4. We'll talk about those once a snow event has ended, but sometimes it varies based on the current accumulation and the current forecast. For example, if we receive 1.5 inches of snow overnight and another 1.5 inches is forecasted for the next day, during the day, we'll only plow priority number 1. And we'll wait for the other areas to start until that second accumulation has happened. Because of we're trying to balance time and resources, and so the threshold is when there's at least 1.5 inches and we have the resources, we hit the runway, and then we move to priorities 2 through 4. So as we discussed, priority 1 is the runway and the taxiways. Priority 2 is the south end of the field. So taxi lanes, November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec, and apron A. Then they move to apron B. Then they move to transient parking and taxiway C. And so that's everything, south. So we've got the hangars at the very most end of it. Then we've got the general aviation in the middle, and then we've got another set of hangars, and then we go to Saloy, and then we go on further. So that's kind of the dividing line. Then priority 3 is taxi lane Delta, apron Charlie, apron Delta, apron E, and that section, priority 3, approaching apron E, that's going to see a slight deviation from years past because of the construction. So we're going to have to add another operator when we get over there, because we're going to have to immediately start to move the piles that we make further down than normal, because we don't have storage on the side of the existing apron E. So it's described as snow removal in this area, priority 3, will require a second operator to allow the loader and the snow blower to work together to prevent taxiway B from being blocked off. Snow removal in this area may be slower in the past due to this, and they're going to have to leave a buffer around the apron E section on Papa Row and stuff because of the construction over there. So what you're going to notice is 2 operators in priority 3 area, so that they can immediately plow it and blow it, so that they don't end up with too large of a stockpile. So I think the staff has a really good plan. They've talked about it. They've tabletopped it, but because it will require 2 operators, we probably will see a slight delay in getting to priority 3 to make sure that we, as we deal with the rest of the city's streets, and we have the 2 operator team to do it. So we'll play that by ear as we move forward, and if we need to make adjustments, we'll do that. But that's the plan for this winter at this point. And so then my question to the board, any suggestions on how to communicate this? I can work on an illustration. I have the written out explanation. Just curious if there's any input on how to keep the users informed and make it clear without confusing, and give our patrons the information they need. And one more caveat I wanted to make. Over in the hangars, the way it typically operates is, because we're on priority 1, if a group on Taxi Lane November, if they get together and they all plow their snow into the taxi lane, our staff will come and get it. But if if you beat us out there, we'll come clear that away. If 9 out of the 10 hangars clear it, and we take it away, and then the 10th hangar comes out and they leave it in the road, it's going to be there for a while. And so it really makes sense for each taxi lane group to get together and pick a time and work together. And if someone's not reliable to move it quick enough and it's impacting operations for someone else, then we need to have some coordination where everyone has a deadline and they say, if I'm not going to get to it, then please get it for me, because I don't want to leave a huge berm of snow out in front of my hard stand, and then we don't get back to it because we can't be bouncing around the field. We need to move in a linear fashion so we can be efficient. So that's something I'd like to kind of work on, is to explain to our hangar users when it's kind of like the garbage truck, right? Everyone needs to have their garbage cans out by a certain time because the garbage truck's coming through, and so we treat snow removal the same way. We'd like to have everyone push their hangar snow out so we can take it away and it's all one fell swoop, and not have someone miss it and then leave a big berm for a long time or impact someone else's operations because they're further inside and can't get around snow that's been pushed. So I think it's possible. I don't know if it's asking too much for those taxi lane neighborhoods to work together, but there's some room for efficiency if we can all coordinate better.
Yeah, so forgive me, I must have missed, no, what you call that? Priority 4, what was priority 4?
That is a good question. Oh, yeah. It is the it's access gate C. So it's the fence gate section that we don't really use. That's priority 4.
Yeah, I take these gentlemen, but as far as Yeah, communication's obviously the key, but I'd have a ton of flyers, a ton of posters, with the different priorities in red, yellow, blue, and purple, whatever.
Right.
Pictures are fantastic, and then just maybe a quick, brief explanation of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then email the hell out of it, because like you said, someone's gonna go out there and plow a big berm, and then I can't do my business while you're snow blowing the far end.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We have an airport mailing list. We're just trying to figure out how to keep people in communication, because of all these different avenues and stuff. So
We have a big bulletin board at the fuel pumps, we can put posters up and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's where they go, get gas.
Right.
All the gates could have them on there, the whole works. And just maybe at this meeting we have, let people know. Any questions, go to our website on the city, and here's our snow removal plan.
No, that's an excellent point. Yeah, we'll have it available at the public meeting.
Okay. Anything else?
So if you're ready to move on from striping and snow removal and stuff, I thought that it was probably time that we open some sort of discussion on aircraft rescue and firefighting on the airport as we get bigger. Right now, there's some political implications because the fire departments are borough fire departments, not city, and they're equidistant between 6.2 and 7.3, I believe, and they're both about 10 minutes away. So I think from talking to some of the fire department personnel that I know rather well, the primary for firefighting on the airport, it would be 6.2, which means coming down KGB Road, and then Clap and in that way. So I think it's imperative that we start understanding what we're going to need. Just for the FAA website on Part 139 airports it would take me a month to get through everything that they have with all the advisory circulars and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's important we understand if we're going to try to entice Grant Aviation possibly to come in here. I notice they're now taking over for Raven into Kenai, 50 flights a week, I think. You know, it might be nice to run a few of those into Wasilla, especially for the North Slope workers and that sort of stuff. But to do that, they're going to have some sort of firefighting capability, whether it just be trucks stand by there during their operations or whatever. So I thought it was probably a good idea that we start understanding that. And keep in mind as well that the firefighters are not trained in necessarily in aircraft fires and fighting aircraft fires. So there is training available. And I think that we need to maybe open a discussion with the borough on getting some of the folks in 6.2 at least trained in if we're going to expand our airport and we're going to get into Bravo series those are bigger airplanes with a lot more fuel and they go faster and a lot of implications there. And if Station 6.2 and the borough firefighters have to respond to an airplane crash on the Wasilla Airport, is there any of them that are going to have any kind of experience as far as shutting down the airplane, turning off the batteries, shutting off the fuel? All those things are necessary for firefighters to know what to do. Can they approach the airplane? When can they approach the airplane? All that sort of stuff, I think, is important. So if we desire our airport not to be a sleepy little personal use airport with no firefighting, we're going to have to step up to the plate and find ways to resolve some of these issues. So some of the things might even be holding a firefighter training out there with an old airplane and lighting it on fire, or even tours of airplanes for firefighters, so people, so they know, hey, typically the fuel switch on a 206 is here, the master switch is here. So I think we need to maybe move that forward a little bit, and that's why I wanted to put this on our radar essentially tonight. I know it's a little unusual maybe for a commissioner to do that, but it seems to be it should be something worth thinking about, especially with the FAA. I've been in their website for the last couple days, and there's lots of requirements that they have, as HDL probably knows, for this. So maybe we could get a jump on it, especially with our firefighters and involve the Matsu Borough firefighting, the EMS and that sort of thing. So just sort of Kevin's thoughts.
So just clarifying, I'm done with snow removal. You guys all good with that? No, I'm just saying, no other points? Okay, yeah, absolutely. Is that in the second phase?
The second phase, looking forward to the second phase.
Yeah, so what, just to put it out there, what concerns me the most is, I've been at a lot of airports where they'll do all this millions and millions of dollars of construction, and then the next phase is like, oh, we gotta put in a fluid blah, blah, blah tank, and all of a sudden they gotta dig up the brand new runway to put in all this not garbage. And it's like, we didn't plan for the firefighting, we didn't plan for the anti-ice to go off into this catch basin, and I'm worried that we're gonna build it, and then we're gonna have to cut through all that stuff. I've seen it over and over and over again, so.
Yeah, I think that's why you try and have the plan, hopefully minimizes impacts to existing infrastructure, or doesn't make you redo infrastructure you already have, or you're not already gonna redo to accommodate growth.
Well, maybe a little bit out of line, but I'm happy to open, if anybody had any experts in here about firefighting, maybe we could hear from them and see what's going on.
So I'm Mike McCabe with Westlake Fire Department.
I get you to come up and sign up and.
Yeah. Already signed this.
Oh, did you? Great.
I'm with Westlake's Fire Department here. This airport's actually in Central's area, so I'm kind of representing both fire departments, Central and Westlake tonight. I'm far from an expert in our firefighting. It's a completely different and specialized type of certification, which is part of what we talked about already. To be a firefighter, you go through a lot of training with NFPA standards, IFSAC, there's a lot of kind of governing bodies, and then you add the FAA into that, and it gets complicated and expensive. So it takes a long time to get a crew trained up to do this kind of thing if you're starting from the ground level. So the sooner we could get a jump on some sort of plan, timeline, that kind of thing, the smoother it'll be from the ARF perspective. So,
Do you guys does the firefighting community have grants and that kind of stuff to get that extra training? I mean, do we have to show you that we need it so that you guys can?
the grant writing process can involve whatever the guidelines the FAA sets up. We don't have anyone that does that specifically, so it's going to be real FAA centric. There's not a lot out there for firefighter training in the ARF side of things for our normal grants.
So the city or the FAA would be paid for the training,
Yep.
which is extensive.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
You just did.
What is Palmer's firefighting capabilities right now?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not real familiar with them. They've got scheduled flights, so they're in the same boat.
Yeah, they are.
So maybe that brings up a good point. Maybe they're up against this wall where they've got to make this big investment in an ARF crew, which means a station and a truck, to meet that response capability to move forward and grow the airport.
They got a surplus ARF vehicle out of Elmendorf, I think.
Yeah.
And it's right, if you're familiar with that, the fire station is right next to, the training facility is right next to the airport there. I think they are hopefully planning, I think they're hopeful that they can leverage that into some on-field capability.
So Central's in a similar position. There is an old ARF truck surplus from J-Bear at 6'2". There's one person on staff that knows how to operate it and has been trained on it. And there's no firefighters that are trained to actually respond in it. So there's a little bit out there like that, kind of a starting point.
That's what I think. I think that Palmer has started to train their firefighters on that vehicle, just with that ARF response of that vehicle. So that might just be a starting point.
Right.
So with your indulgence, Mr. Chair, with the FAA, the firefighting response depends on the size of the number. The biggest airplane that has the greatest number of passengers. I ran into this 20 plus years ago. There was a fire at Philadelphia in a UPS airplane, and the airport firefighters did not have the right equipment to fight a cargo airplane fire. In particular, the thing that pierces the skin of the airplane, they didn't have one for cargo planes, which are a little bit different because there was no requirement for them to have one, because all their requirements are based on the number of passengers. So we need to be sort of cognizant of how many passenger airlines we want to attract, if we're interested in jets, bigger jets, that kind of thing, I think we're going to have to start, and prove to whether it be Alaska or somebody else that we are interested and that we are already well down that path of plussing up our firefighting capabilities.
And to add to that, if you can, in phase 2, if you get your runway length out to 6,300, 6,500 feet, somewhere in there, and maybe you don't have a tenant yet, but you can get listed as an alternate for Anchorage or Fairbanks, and once you do that, it opens up a lot of doors with the FAA. So if you've got the program in place to support being an alternate with the runway length, and you can accommodate a 737 in an emergency, the FAA is going to be real helpful. Yeah, as helpful as they can be, right?
Yeah, we're here to help.
Yeah. So I was I'm just taking notes tonight to take back to leadership, but I can answer any questions anyone else has, and we're just kind of trying to stay at the forefront and continue to provide excellent service to the community.
Are you as I get into phase 2 here, are you the contact that I should be contacting?
For now, it'd be a good idea.
Okay.
I talked to our chief about it, and she's really interested in what's going on here. She just doesn't have an aviation background. I know a little bit about it, so we have easy conversations, and I can pass that along for now.
Any questions? The ARF right now, is it operational? Is it at your station? Do you guys just have it as a truck sitting out there?
So so I work for Westlake. Central has the ARF truck I referenced at 6.2. It is operational. I wouldn't call it, it's operational in the fact that it runs drives and you can train on it. I would venture to guess it doesn't meet any sort of FAA specification right now. It would have to be kind of re-outfitted with tools, current tools, and certainly training. And an ARF truck does you no good if you don't have a warm place to park it. A station or a hangar is going to be hand in hand with having an ARF truck out there. So Palmer's got their training facility. We don't have anything like that out there right now at the Wasilla Airport, so hand in hand.
Yeah, Palmer's got their facility, but not the want, and I've got the want, but not the facility, so
There you go.
get Eric to build me a hangar.
And also, where you put that facility is important. As your airport grows, you're talking, there's FAA inspections are going to mandate like a 3-minute response time, so you can't have it just kind of out in the boonies if you got a 12,000 foot. So you need to plan where you're going to put it.
I'd be happy to get a 6,400 foot airport right now, so we'll get that.
Yep. So that's all phase 2 stuff, obviously, but
Good conversations to have.
it takes a while to get these kind of balls rolling with organizations that have never had to deal with anything ARF. They don't know anything about it, and they're not comfortable in that realm.
So one reason I brought this up is because oftentimes the training takes months in advance to get scheduled and that sort of thing. So it's something we should probably be thinking about now if we're going that way. So
Excellent, I appreciate that.
that's all I have.
Thanks very much, Mr. McCoy. Little off the proper, but that's okay. Public comments. Only one public. Nope, nothing. Staff and commission comments.
So, is this thing on? So, I want to let you know that we met with the FAA today, and we went and met with the group that works with the non-DOT sponsored airports, and they called and they said, "Hey, we saw your groundbreaking, and we want to see what's going on." So they're excited, but in a good way. And so we reiterated that we are not breaking ground on the runway expansion today. We're working through the master plan process, but that we also are not waiting on them, and that we're taking the bull by the horns, and that we're going to kind of do something that doesn't happen up here very often, and have the city expand and not come knocking to FAA to pay for it. So they were appreciative of that, and we're just keeping an open dialogue with them. But they did also mention that there's some extra funding out there that we didn't realize, because we've got a regular is it allotment? There's a term for it.
Yeah, so there's discretionary funding that is available.
Well, it's not even just that, it's our regular yearly
Yeah.
assistance. It's got a word, I'm blanking on it now. It's about $150,000 a year. Palmer gets it, we get it. The BIL funding has basically doubled that. So instead of 150, we have 300, and there's another infusion of money coming too. So it was a very productive meeting in just that aspect, since I didn't know about that. And so we're gonna get back with our with our finance director and the finance people, and just make sure that we understand where that's coming from and what it is for the planning wise and operations and stuff. So that was a really good meeting. Anyway, that just happened today, and just want to make the council aware of that.
Amen.
So since we're talking about safety, one of the things that our roads department just accomplished was the SHARP certification through OSHA, which shows that it's, I think there's 6 organizations in the state that have accomplished this process and gotten this award. So I think that's really, those kind of certification lends itself well to our day-to-day practices on the infrastructure safety.
Commission.
That's all I got.
All right, sir. Well, my only comment is maybe for new business next time is I'd like to come up with what's what I'm looking for.
guess
For an airport manager to
Oh, wait.
what they're supposed to do, what do you call it, job description of what we'll be expecting. Because things like the firefighting, meeting with the FAA, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there that we could really either step on ourselves or really help ourselves with the FAA. They just want to feel welcome. You give coffee and donuts, they're happy and they feel welcome. If they feel like they're being left out of the loop, boy, they're going to get all crazy on you. So, but I'd like to put that on there for the next meeting, was to have a job description for the airport manager, because I'm thinking we're desperately behind and need of that. I'd also like to fix the record. The record shows, appropriately so, that I was in this for rule enforcement. And I think that comes across, or I came across too heavy-handed. I'm not there, or the airport manager wouldn't be there for rule enforcement as much as a liaison between the city and the customers at the airfield. So things like snow removal, talking to the FAA, doing that stuff, knowing what the pilots can and can't do, the operators out there at the airfield. But not so much, as I seem to point out, rule enforcement. It's not the Barney Fife I want out there. I want to have a guy that can go out there, or a lady who can liaison for the customers out there and make sure that the airport's serving the customers and what they need, especially snow removal. I know Palmer had a hell of a problem. They would never clear out the people who have the businesses and flight schools going on until last. So, yes, sir, you had a second?
Between the taxiway and the runway, that ditch, were we talking about filling that?
Yeah, we have talked about that. We've received comments about it being deep. We don't have a project figured out for that yet, but it's on our radar to come up with a plan and figure out how to
Okay.
do that properly.
All right.
All right, no other comments? Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys.
One of these if you.
Yeah. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, definitely.
You